Now, this is definitely an exponential, but there are versions of this question where they try to mess with us. The percentages usually mean we're dealing with exponential growth or decay. However, if they change this question slightly, if they said for each increase in x by 1, the value of x decreases by 80% of the starting value, suddenly it's not an exponential anymore. It's a linear equation. The reason that something is exponential is that we're always taking a percent, but that we're taking percent of keeps changing. Because as time passes, we're taking a percent of the new number that we have. But if something about this was worded in such a way that the percent was just consistent, right? 80% of the original value is always going to be the same thing. It's always 80% of, in this case, 86. So that would make this linear. And I have seen the SAT mess with us there. But the wording of this tells us that it's exponential. So let's start with the exponential equation formula, 1 plus or minus p times o, like this. So we have an original, right? That's what a y-intercept is. So 86 is going to be on the outside. For each increase in x by 1, the value of x decreases by 80%. So that means we can just follow the normal formula here because the x is the t, right? So it just means that since it's by 1, it just means that every time we increase the exponent, it's going to make us take another 80%. So the equation's going to look like this. 0.2 to the x equals n. And then they want f of 2, so that just means put 2 in for x. So 86 times 0.2 squared. And I would just go to the calculator here. So 0.2 squared. Oop, got to turn it on first. 0.2 squared is 0.04. I'm just going to leave it in the calculator and times that by 86 because I know how to do PEMDAS. And I get 3.44, which is the answer. And I would write that as a decimal, not a fraction, because it's a terminal decimal. It ends. So that way I don't have to deal with rounding or anything like that. But it didn't say to round, right? So make sure you don't unless it really says. But this, to me, is fairly basic. The only thing that makes it a little harder is that they don't actually say that it's an exponential. And in the midst of a test, right, not right now, where I'm telling you it's an exponential just based on the name of the video. But if this were a test, right, you'd have to identify that. And generally, percentages tell us that we're dealing with exponentials, but I have seen the SAT mess with us there. So just be aware of how they're using that percent. If the percent is of a number and that is constantly, the same, if that's not changing, if it's the same number, then the percent isn't really there for any other reason than to add an extra step. It's only when that percent is constantly updating that we need to do an exponential. And that's kind of what's going on here. So hopefully that helps. But yeah, as I've said this in many of my videos, the SAT loves to use percentages to mess with us. No exception here.